If you are a subscriber to my YouTube video feed, you'll probably have seen this video review before. It's a re-release and re-edited version of an earlier review that was supposed to compare two 720p cameras against one another. Due to reasons that aren't worth going into here, I've had to take out any references to one of the cameras, and as a result you're left with an overlong review of the RD32 camera, a camera that I've already reviewed before. Please don't confuse this 720p motion JPEG RD32 camera with the 1080p H.264 RD32 II camera. I've done a review of that one already, and it's a much better camera and review than this one. About 6 months ago I reviewed the RD32 action camera. Now in that video review I didn't have very many positive things to say about the camera. In fact I was rather negative, the main reason being that it records in motion JPEG AVI format, which creates jerky video with drop frames. But the other big issue that I had with it was that it created purple people, and that's because it didn't have an IR filter over the lens for its night vision function to work, but that made blacks into purple colours. Rather surprisingly, the manufacturers of the RD32, a company called Redleaf, got in touch, said they'd seen the video review and wanted to send me over 3 of their newer cameras. The first one they sent me was an updated version of the RD32, which should fix some of the problems that I was experiencing in the previous model. So to kick things off, we'll see what the differences are between the old model, which I've got here, and the new RD32. Which I've got here. The new one's the yellow one for future reference. Doesn't have to be that colour, by the way. The first thing here, bottom right, notice I've got a tick in white LED night vision, but not in infrared night vision. The old one, as you can see here, if we zoom in on that one as well, it's got ticks in both of those things, and that was the purple problem that I was having. That was caused by the infrared night vision, so there should be no purple issue with this camera. The other thing that you'll notice on the left here, the new one has 20 metres water resistant, whereas the old one claimed to be 30 metres. I don't know if people had problems with it, but I'm quite happy with 20 metres because I won't use any of those metres at all. Right, now let's have a look what's in here. You get the camera, you get a little cloth case. That's useful actually because it stops you scratching the lens. You get this bicycle mount thing here, which you see unscrews at the bottom there. It goes over a handlebar, presumably. I'm not going to be testing mine on a bike, although I've got a solution for that. I'm going to show you that later on. It's all plastic construction, presumably apart from the screw in the middle of that clamp thing there. I've got a UK power adapter with this one because of course that's where I live. You'll probably get one for your own country. This is a USB A to mini B lead, standard. And this is an AV out. You see you got a video and audio mono output jack things. In here is an elastic strap. There you go, proving it's elastic. The idea with this is you thread it through these 2 slits in the bottom of the camera here, and presumably then you put that round something, but you can see you've got a lot of wobble to it and it kind of twists a bit, so I don't know how steady that would create video, but it might be useful to some people. You get the instruction booklet and then a disc which does have information on about how to set the time. It's got some drivers on there for using it as a webcam, but that didn't seem to work for me, and there's no mention of that in the manual anyway, so I don't know what they're there for. Anyway, ignore the disc, it's pretty useless. One thing that isn't useless are these instructions. They're actually very good instructions for a change. Very readable. Let's just have a look at these specs down the back here. You see this one's got a 120-degree wide-angle lens. As you can see there, we've mentioned a few of these things before. 32 megabyte micro SD card maximum size. It's a pretty nice camera. It's quite large, I suppose, for these things, but it's not ridiculous. It's got 3 buttons on the top there. We'll pull this back bit off. You could thread something through that, but if that came off, it'd just fall on the floor. You've got a rubber grommet around the edge of there to stop the water getting in. In the back here, you've got the micro SD card, which I can't get my fingers to, so you have to sort of eject it with something. You can always ping it out and fly it across the room if you want. You don't have to use tweezers. And then you've got the USB port there, the AV out, a reset button, and there's a little LED in the middle there as well, which lights up when it's charging. So I'm sort of exaggerating this. You could actually put that in if you had a fingernail and you hadn't bitten them off like I have. By the way, apologies for my fingers during this. They're rather crispy looking. They might make you feel a little bit sick, but there's not a lot I can do about that. Right, we'll switch it on. You have to hold down the button for a second or so there to get it to switch on, so you don't accidentally tap it and switch it on in your pocket. It's on now. We'll press the front button. That just controls the torch. You can have all the lights on at once, or just 4 of them, or switch it off, it goes around in a loop like that. That's quite a bright torch actually. It'd be quite good to put this on your bicycle and use the torch and of course film at the same time. We'll move into the recording mode now. The middle button's the one that does that, so you tap that and you'll see the blue light is flashing there, which means that we're currently recording, and then you can tap it again to stop it. The camera does vibrate whenever you press a button, hopefully you can hear that. And that's very useful. When you're not looking at it, you can tell that you've actually set it going. Right, we'll move modes, press that bottom button there. This red light means that it's now in the photo mode, so every time you press a button you get a photo. I don't know who uses these cameras for photos. I don't think anyone does. They always have a photo mode, but who really uses that? I certainly don't. This next one, that is the motion activation mode with both the lights lit there. So whenever you wave something in front of it, or move about of course, the motion activation starts the camera recording. Now I'll show you a bit more on that later because it's actually quite a good feature. Now the next mode along, if I press the right button, I have to press the back one to stop it. That's it. Right, the next mode along with these lights, it's motion activation, but it takes a photo instead of video each time. And then we're back to the beginning again to take video, and you just go around in a circle through the 4 modes like that. And if you want to turn it off, you just hold down the button for a couple of seconds, the light flashes, it vibrates twice and switches off. Now I wanted to show you this. I'm using a Kingston Class 10 micro SD card. Notice the 10 inside the C on the right there. That's a very fast card, and I'm using a fast card to try and eliminate any of the jerkiness that motion JPEG can create with slower cards. Right, now here is the bicycle mount. It clips on there nicely. You can swivel the top of it to point in different directions and it will stay there like that. I think it's quite a neat design. Now I don't ride a bicycle, so I couldn't really comment on its actual day-to-day use, but I think it's quite good how you can slide it off here and then just slide it back on in a second, so you could leave the mount on top of your bike and just take the camera off when you reach your destination. Right, the next thing I'm going to show you is the fact that you can charge it and record at the same time. So we're going to start the recording off now. Notice the blue light flashing and it's charging. So there, that kind of proves that, doesn't it? You can also pull the plug and it'll just carry on recording. So that's quite useful. Now when you do charge it up, you notice you've got this red LED in the back here, which does go out when the charging's finished. I'll show you the AV out functions of this camera now. So you plug in that AV lead, the other 2 ends of course plug into your television, and then switch it on. Now it notices the AV leads in there and this pink LED comes on and it goes straight into video out mode. Now you can jump through the recordings that you've already made on the camera and then you can play them back if you want. Of course it's only in standard definition because it uses phonos rather than an HDMI socket. Now one thing you can't do is stream video at the same time you're recording. So I've started recording, but as soon as I plug the AV lead in here, it goes into playback mode. So if you're a remote control airplane enthusiast, unfortunately you won't be able to stream live video from your plane using this camera. Right, let's go through some of these menus here. We'll look through. You've got quality, fine, standard and economy. I'm doing everything in fine. Motion detection capture time, you can have different lengths of time for how long it's going to record after it sees motion and then stops recording again, waiting for the next lot of motion. You can have motion detection auto delete, which basically means when the camera's full it'll wipe it off and start again. Now of course what that means is you could use this as a pretty good security camera. Right, now setting the time and date, you've got a menu here which is useful to be able to set it in a menu rather than having to use a text file, and you can have it in different formats, different ways round. The next menu down is light frequency. That's to adjust the hertz so that it matches the hertz of the lighting in your country so it doesn't flicker. And then of course TV output, which I'll change to PAL because that's what's used in the UK. It takes you back to the beginning when you do that. Next one down, language, system reset. You can turn the timestamp on or off. I'm going to leave it on during these videos, but I recommend you turn it off because it's really ugly. And then here's the version number. Notice this was built on the 9th of November 2011. It says HW2, which I presume is hardware 2, so that's pretty bang up to date at the time of this review. Although if you're watching this 2 years down the line, it's pretty out of date at the time that you're watching this. Right, it's time to show some test footage. Now the problems with the previous RD32 were the purple colours and the jerky motion, so let's see if this camera improves upon that one. Well, I'm a little bit disappointed because yes, the purple's gone, it shows proper colours now, although it does err towards yellow a little bit, I think. It's not quite neutral, it's a little bit kind of muted. But the jerky motion's still there. Now remember, I'm using a class 10 card in this one, so it's the fastest one I've got. I've tried a few different cards to see if any of them improve upon this, but no, look at this. I'm panning from left to right here, and it jerks about like nobody's business. The camera also has a tendency to bleach out in bright conditions. You'll notice at the tops of those buildings everything is white rather than showing cloud formations, etc. Now let's have a listen to the sound quality. I think I know who's doing all the work in that musical ensemble, but the sound is a little bit muffled, isn't it? Just have a listen to a little bit more. It's kind of got a bit of an echo to it. Now you have to take the cap out of the back of the camera to hear any sound at all, otherwise it's just pretty much silent. The fisheye lens is doing a good job here though. You can see an awful lot in one scene. Now let's just try it in the dark, or darker conditions. Here I am filming the Wu Sang, and it does actually look quite good at this time of night. I think it works quite well in the dark. Let's take the darkness down a notch and just film this hotel here. And as you can see, it's getting a little bit grainy, but it's still alright, although it's pretty jerky of course still, but nothing we can do about that. In this scene you'll notice the brightness fluctuates when people walk past the camera, and that's the camera trying to adjust itself to the conditions. And in the final scene that we'll look at, here I am at the station just looking down on the road below, and it's okay again. It does fine in the dark, this camera, for the size of it. Now for this next footage I strapped the camera to the top of the car and took the cap out of the back so that you can see and hear what it sounds like and looks like out on the road. So I'll just be quiet for a second and let you have a look at this. So now we'll compare that sound with the sound from the camera with the cap replaced. Now I don't really want to sound hypercritical with this camera, but to me the jerking issue is a big problem and I can't ignore it. However, to some people it might not be such an issue. For example, if you just wanted this camera to attach it to your bicycle handlebars and use it to record your journeys to work every day, for potential video evidence if some lunatic in a transit van knocked you into a ditch, then it'd do a pretty good job of that. You don't need things to be silky smooth to prove that somebody's knocked you off your bike. But there is one thing that you'd need to do. You'd need to have it set in motion activation mode so that the video looping facility can work. Otherwise you'd have to empty it out every time the memory card filled up, which would be a bit of a pain. And you'd have to be emptying that memory card quite regularly because the motion JPEG video takes up a lot of space. 10 minutes uses approximately 1 GB. Now let's have a look at some photos. As I mentioned, I don't really take photos with cameras like this, but here are some. They're all in a 4:3 format. They're quite a little bit sharper than the video at times, but again still suffer from that bleaching out effect in the sky. Now I made a mistake the last time I reviewed the RD32 and I'd like to correct it now. I thought that when it was in motion activation mode and the lights went out like that the camera had just switched off and wasn't working anymore. Especially when you consider you wave something in front and nothing happens. I thought the camera was just dead. Well, I was wrong. It actually goes into a stealth mode so that you don't notice the lights flashing when it's recording, but it is still recording. And I'm going to prove that now by filming it with my camcorder, and then if we have a look at the footage from the RD32, this is what it saw. So it does work even when the lights are off. And you can power it from the mains and you can have it functioning all day and looping round. So it does make a very good security camera. So to sum up, the RD32 still isn't a particularly good action camera. Its jerky video isn't really up to the task. However, if you just wanted to attach it to a bicycle handlebar mount, or maybe use it as a security camera, then it's not bad at doing either of those two things. But if you want to watch a proper video review of a 1080p H.264 camera, the RD32 II, make sure you have a look at my other videos, because that one's an awful lot better. But for the moment, thanks for watching.